Welcome to the KMC Collective podcast, where the KMC team brings you practical insights, creative ideas, and authentic conversations for children's ministry leaders. Each conversation is packed with strategies to help you lead with clarity, build strong teams, nurture families, and stay healthy in the process. Whether you're planning lessons, training volunteers, or seeking encouragement for the week ahead, this podcast is for you. We hope to make you laugh, cry, think, and maybe a bit of all three in each of our weekly conversations. This is the KMC Collective Podcast. Let's jump into the conversation.
So tonight in this conversation, we're responding to a Facebook post from a kids ministry leader that had some real concerns. Their church just canceled every major event, all of the big events, no VBS, no egg hunts, nothing. And so in this week's conversation, I want to unpack, and not just armchair quarterback, I want to unpack what's going on and what can we learn, and how can we encourage each other to do ministry, even if our church hits reset for the year. So, hey, join in this week's conversation with the KMC Collective team. I'm Tom.
I'm Cole.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Vicky.
All right, guys. So we've recovered from our Cadbury egg fiasco, which I did go buy some mini eggs. I'm just saying.
I'm still hurt, Tom. I'm still hurt. Cadbury eggs are gross.
Some real ones.
And it did start some conversation in the KMC group, I will say. And Ben, it sounds like people like the gooey eggs. Although they didn't specifically say gooey, they just said Cadbury. So, I mean, there's Cadbury mini eggs, which I think are stellar. They're epic. But anyway, but you know, my heart went out to this leader. I mean, gosh, when I read the post, I was like, wow, that would be brutal. To do that. I want to know right off in the start of this conversation, what hits you when you hear or when you read a post like what we read, where a leader just gets hit with this, you know, the senior leadership just comes down and says, hey, we're going to have to cancel all the big events this year. We're going to wipe them all clean off the calendar. Nobody's doing anything. It's not just kids ministry, but we're just not going to do any major events this year. How does that hit? What's your first reaction, response to this? And then we'll dive into the conversation of what would we do? And what would we say to this leader and maybe to other leaders that are out there that are facing that situation, because it is kind of budget season a little bit and people are starting to map out their year and how they're going to spend their money. And some people are going, what money? And what's a budget? I've never seen that before. And you know, do I have to print my own? You know, print everything else? No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Let's not talk about forgery.
Yeah. We don't want to lead anybody into sin. But I'm just curious, what your first reactions, guys, and then we'll hit the conversation running. But I'm just curious, what do you think when you read a post like that?
I know for myself, when I read it, I'm, skeptic a little bit. Like, there's got to be two sides to every story.
Mm-hmm.
But then the leader in me, all these leadership books that I read and all this says, if you're going to be a part of an amazing organization, a church that you support, a pastor that you champion, and you serve under him, you have to look at it. Okay, yeah, they cut my stuff. Maybe something's going on that I, as a leader, I, as a children's director, can step it up. Like, let's get creative. Find a friend who's more creative than me. Pick his brain, pick her brain. Find out ways to help. Maybe, just maybe, they're financially struggling, and what better way to grow a church than like with the children's ministry? Hands down, 20-something years in ministry, I've seen every church I've been a part of grow from the kids ministry, the youth ministry. It is a catalyst of churches and growing. So like if they're struggling financially, hit those families and say, "Hey, let's do something for your kids. Like
Mm,
we're here, we still love you," and get creative so that families start coming, families start tithing, families start
Mhm.
getting a part of it. And then you are now able financially to pull off something.
Yeah.
Plus, you got the support of all the families involved, and you
Hmm.
just got to think differently. But a lot of times we take that as like a stab, like we don't like you and we want to, take away all your
Yeah.
fun. But you got to look at it different. Like there's two sides to
Yeah.
every story,
Absolutely.
and
Always.
you've been put in a position to support and serve the local church. So do it. It
Yeah.
doesn't money or no money. I've been a part of church plants. I've been a part of mega churches. Like you can do something with nothing, and it doesn't, it doesn't stop you from serving Jesus at all.
yeah. I had three thoughts immediately. I thought,
They match all the same letter.
no, no. If I would have had time,
Oh,
I would have come up with it. But I was like, first I was like, wow, that's really hard.
Yep.
Yep.
And then I was like, wow, um, the leadership is looking to do something different. Like they're trying to figure it out, and not go under or not close doors.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
in it. And the third thought I had was been there, done something similar, and it
Yeah.
is hard. So
Yeah.
I am with you. And yeah, so I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
Yeah. My stuff's basically an echo of both Vicky and Ben's. I've been there. I've been a part of church plants and startups, and it is really hard. I think one of the thing was for me is I thought I went from a pretty big mega church with almost an unlimited budget to a
Mm,
church startup with basically no budget whatsoever. And so when I went in and was talking with I was a volunteer at the time, and I was talking with the kids director about it. I had these grand ideas of things to do. She's like, "That's not gonna happen. My budget is this." And I was like, "Can we get more money?" No. So it really pushed me to think outside the box of
Yeah.
helping her create family
mhm.
events and things like that. So yes, I
That's it.
it's rough. It's
Yeah.
rough when you get this news,
Absolutely.
and yeah.
Well,
So
I was telling you guys before we started the recording to this conversation is, yeah, I've been in a church, a very wealthy church. I mean, lots of big dollar cars in the parking lot, and went through 3 years of 3 to 4 months of spending restriction to the point where
Mhm.
it was
mhm.
you literally had to ask for permission to buy goldfish. I
Yeah.
mean, it was crazy. Um, and and yet for me, it was an opportunity to go, okay, God, you're the God of abundance. You're the God who can supply anything. And if you own the thousand cattle, well, the cattle on Thousand Hills, well, you're gonna
Mhm.
have to slaughter a few of them for me because I need some I need some meat here. Um, and you know what? He always showed up. There was amazing things. And so what I want to do with our time in this conversation is let's hit the reset button and let's imagine
Mm,
that we're all in this leader's shoes and we get hit with that decision. And instead of reacting and going, "Oh, woe is me," and sit there in our sackcloth and ashes and, you know, pout, how about we hit the reset and we
yes.
think about what can
Mhm.
we build with the God of the universe on our side,
Hmm.
and things that don't require a huge budget. And let's give our leaders and our listeners some things to think about, and maybe even some questions to ask of to think through how do we rebuild and what can we focus on? Where do we have to take our eyes off the problem and put it on the solutions instead of what can't we do? What can't we spend money on? What can't,
Yeah.
the big events we can't do and get stuck there? What are the things we can do? What can
Mhm.
we do to encourage people to love God and love others? How can we share the gospel with kids and their families? How do we help parents disciple at home? How do we do the things that we believe in are essentials to kids ministry and family ministry? How do we do that? Even caring for our volunteers, we can throw that in the middle of the ring too. What do we do with what feels like nothing, and we're not allowed? Because again, you can be paralyzed with fear and frustration, or you can set yourself free and say, okay, God, it is time for you to give me creativity. Like Ben said, it's time for me to get into a community and start asking questions and saying, hey, what can we do? So I want to ask that question of, if your calendar got wiped out tomorrow, what would you do? What would be the things you would keep and program, knowing that, hey, Sunday mornings is going to be okay, but what are those extra things that we can look at? Because, this leader lost their egg hunts and their VBSs and stuff. So what can you do in place of those things? Let's get some ideas. Help me out.
Are we taking this from the perspective of lack of finances within the church, or
Oh, that's a
lack
good
of
question.
church calendar? Like they want to make, keep it simple.
I would say the feeling of this leader is there's a sense of both being happening. But so, you know, the everything's off the table as far as big events. What would you do if you can't do any of those kind of things where you're going to spend the money and go that route? So, yep.
You got to start it in prayer. I mean, that's the big things.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
I definitely
you're
agree.
about to embark in something that's way bigger than yourself.
Yep.
And so, like, God put you here. He's going to go with you. He's going to go
Hmm.
before you, and he's going
Yeah.
to create opportunities that you've never even thought of.
Yep.
And it's going to be awesome. But you got to let him do his thing and show off and show who he is, for it to like be a life changing moment, so he can get
Yeah.
all the glory. Um, but you've got people that attend your church. Like that would be my first thing. Pray, and then find out the people that attend, what are they passionate about. You got a guy that loves to build, you got a lady that loves to sew, you have someone that loves to paint. um, People have these passions that you're just ready now to embark, and most of the time, if they're passionate about something,
Hmm.
they'll back it financially as well. Like, oh, I'll bring the paint, I'll bring the wood, like
Yep.
whatever I got to do. Let's make this happen.
Yep.
This will be awesome.
Yep.
So those will be my first two.
Good. All right, let's keep it going.
Well, I'm kind of with Ben on this. I think you've you've got to find there are people, and God has put strategic people. I believe God puts strategic people in every church that when things are um scarce, quote unquote, I guess, that has those people in there to help you provide. And so it's the prayer piece of it at two, but at one, but at the same time, as you're in a church, get to know your people. The passions are great. I'm with Ben on the passions because, we all have, as kids directors, we all have passions and things we love to do. And so, okay, how do I take someone else's passions and then take what God's vision for kids ministry is, and take the vision he's put on, for me, and go, how can we, and maybe what you thought was going to be your VBS, it was going to go left. God was like, well, now you're not having a VBS, but maybe we can create a couple events that look like a VBS, but we incorporate the people's passions at church. You know what I mean?
There
Like
you go.
I think it's getting your mindset in a new frame of going, there is now a clean slate, and not looking at it as a negative, but looking at it as a positive and going,
Right.
God has cleaned this slate for a reason. What are we doing wrong? Or not wrong, it's not. What do we need to do that is better? Maybe there's a better out there that you're missing because the slate was full and now it's clean. And so it
Oh,
gives you the
okay.
opportunity to innovate and find new
Yeah,
ways to connect with kids and families.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
so good. That is so good. I love building things. I love starting new things. And change excites me. And I know it doesn't for a lot of people. And so I love starting the conversation in prayer. I think for me in this situation, I want to make sure I'm going where everyone else is going in the church. And so if no one else is having any events, what 1 to 3 events do we want to do as a church to take us further together?
Mhm.
And that could be really exciting. And clean slates are fun. I think of the Old Testament, right? And like the
Mm,
building of the wall and all of the things that took so long. But at the end, like the reward and the reason why, and you didn't see it through all of the hard work.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, start in prayer. I
Yeah.
would get in a room with people again, right? It sounded like people couldn't agree on different things, and we don't know the details of whether
right.
it was 9 events and they were only
Hmm.
approving 6 or if it was money. But how do you pray together? How do you significantly get in a room once a week together and pray about God's direction and come up with 1 to 3 things that after this year of rebuilding happens, that you guys can go after together, like
Yeah.
synergy? I just feel like God has something in the works that's going to be really, really great, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But even if you can't, like definitely join your church, but like even if your church isn't doing events, that doesn't stop you from Sunday
no,
morning.
Yeah.
oh,
And so take
definitely
that to
not.
Yeah.
the next level.
And that's kind of where this leader, where the sentiment was, and where they were really asking for help is, what do I do to get kids into the church? How do I get kids and families without these big events? And here's the thing. I would challenge this leader and any leader to go, okay, have you really evaluated how many families you actually get from an egg hunt, from you get
Yeah.
from Easter or from VBS and from the trunk or treats? I think we spend a lot of money and our return of investment is not as good as we want to hope for. And so
Right.
I think hitting that reset button and going, you know what?
Hmm.
It's time to take all these things that maybe have become sacred cows and make them into prime rib. Um,
Hmm.
eh, take something that has been, we've done it every year. We've always done it this way because we kid ministry people, we get stuck on that, right? We do. And I'm thinking, man, what an opportunity to go. If I could do something totally from scratch, which is what this leader's saying, is that, well, all right,
Hmm.
I got to figure this out. So I think Vicky, you hit something. Nehemiah and the rebuilding of the wall.
Absolutely.
How did they
Yep.
rebuild it? As families.
Yep.
Hmm.
I get the picture from reading Nehemiah, and maybe it's my own personal children's ministry imagination, but I get that feeling that, yeah, the reason why he had, put on the swords, Dad, is because you got to protect your family while the kids are up there pulling stones and rebuilding and stacking. Everybody was involved doing something,
Yeah.
carrying water to the workers, bringing food, stacking rocks. So why not take the opportunity as a church and go, you know what? We're going to do this as a body,
Hmm.
meaning
Hmm.
everything we do do do, is kid ministry, um, is fifth grade boy just popped out.
Focus, Tom, focus.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Get it
Bring it back.
together.
I went
Bring
from
it back.
old man to fifth grade boy, um, just because I
Nehemiah.
said do. Nehemiah,
Yes. Nehemiah.
he pulled people together and focused them and said, this is the main thing. We've got to rebuild the wall so that we
Yeah.
can build up the city. There's a vision there. I think, because this church had hit a roadblock, maybe it was finances, maybe it was because people couldn't agree on the calendar, and so the leader was just like, okay, we're going to scrub it all and we're just going to start over from scratch. So then say, okay, what's the most important things we're going to do? What is it really that's going to draw people to Jesus
Mhm.
and
Hmm.
draw people into our community of faith? And so, when you're thinking about it, you're like, okay, so what? You can't have an egg hunt. What could you do instead
Right.
that would draw a whole family, parents, teenagers, kids together to do something together where all the
Hmm.
generations are coming together? Even the seniors are, the senior adults could come to something and contribute to where the older are teaching the younger. So what kind of things can you do? I mean, this got me excited as I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, I remember as a youth pastor bringing our senior citizens together with our youth ministry and we said, all right, senior adults, you plan the night. You pick the food, you pick the games, you do everything. Now, I will say, some of the stuff they pulled off, I was like, I can't believe they just did that. I can't believe they just did that. Um, but the teenagers loved it. And then we did a reverse where the teens picked the food, picked the games, picked all the stuff, and this invited the senior adults to come in. And you know what? When we went on the next missions trip, I had senior adults going, "Hey, I want to pick a teenager. Can we pick the teens and pray for them?" All of a sudden, our church came together as the body of Christ. Why? Because we did something, because we hit a point where we couldn't do a bunch of stuff. So we came up with some simple events like that, where it was just bringing the families together, having fun, and enjoying it. So I think there's ways that ministry leaders can build the walls together, if they take that mindset of saying, look, the goal isn't a full calendar of events, right? The goal is helping people take their next step in their faith journey, whether that's coming to Jesus or getting baptized or joining the church or what. And like Ben said, you get those families coming, what are they going to do? They're going to give. They're going to sacrifice. They're going to see the bigger vision. They're going to dive in together. I think this is such a huge, amazing opportunity this church has. And I think years from now, they may not see it until they get through all the doors that feel like they've been closed, and they get through that one open door and look back and go, oh my word, that's why those things happened. That's why those doors were closed, because look where God led us. And I mean,
All
so,
right, let's go ahead. Finish that sentence because I
well,
got a fun game for you.
okay. Well, you're probably going to do the one that I was going to throw at you guys, but okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I think we press the positivity button and say right now, if
Ooh.
you were just got an email, you opened it up and you read it, hey, you need to cancel all your events. Where you got like 5 seconds to come up with one or two or maybe three, however many you can do in 5 seconds. What are some things that you could pull off, or just thought process of five things you could do or less, in 5 seconds? Where would your positivity button go? Because I know a lot of times when we read that email,
Yep.
boom, negative button hits.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But like, I know I don't think negative. I think positive. That's just my flaw, but also a good part of me. So like, I think it's fun to like, okay, this is a challenge. Let's do this, 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 and this. And I'm not saying like you have zero money. I'm saying you have limited or nothing. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, we're not
Who
going
wants
to
to
do
start?
a volunteer intensive, because I think that was the thing. It's
Yeah.
all
Hmm.
volunteer intensive, all that kind of thing.
I've
But
got a few ideas,
all
Ben.
right,
All
I've
right.
got a few ideas.
In
all right.
So
five
when
seconds.
I have 5 seconds, I'm not gonna have 5 seconds to get these ideas out. Give me a little bit more time.
I'll give you
First
10.
first set of ideas, pop-up fun events. So these pop-up fun events like kickball game, ice cream
Popsicles in
meetup
the
at an ice
park.
cream place, family walk night in your neighborhood. Second one, I would say kid connection clubs based on different types of interests like Legos, fishing, crafts, sports, walks again, things like that. And lastly, this would take longer than 5 seconds, but I'm going to say it because I really felt, because I've done this in the past at a church and it worked really well. Because we couldn't do VBS because the front of our building was a giant parking lot and there was no back of the building because we were on the second floor of a
So are
mall.
you a homeless church?
No, we were on
No
a mall,
front
and
or
so we
back?
had we had just had a building that had a parking lot in front of it and nothing. And yeah. So, anyways, we ended up doing VBSs in our neighborhoods of our families. So
Yep.
families sponsored the VBS within their neighborhood,
Yep.
and so the church would come in with their volunteer team, and we'd run one. I think we ran like 5 or 6 in like 5 or 6 different neighborhoods, and we have a volunteer team that came in The church would fund some of it. They did not fund the whole thing. They would fund some of it, but then the volunteers, the people that were a part of it from the church were like, hey, like we're going to do this. We want to do this in 5 places. We're looking at this budget. Can we fund it? And then can we volunteer it? And then the families in the neighborhoods loved it. And we got a lot of
Absolutely.
families that checked out our church because of it.
Yep.
Because we not just cared about our city, but we cared about the neighborhoods within our
Yeah.
city.
If you
Your
have
55 seconds is over.
Sorry, man.
if you have like a child evangelism fellowship around you, go ask them if they still have a part. They're called party club kits. They're perfect for a 1-day program, 1-day thing, and literally it's not a big event. It's something you could pull off. You could train a few story presenters, some people that could lead a couple songs, play some games with the kids. But they have this party club kit called The Secret of the Watermelon. And we did these for our churches. I set them up for other churches in the area. Well, once some other people heard what we did, they're like, "Hey, can you help us do this?" I'm like, "Absolutely. I'll train your people. I'll get you the materials. I'll show you how to do the stories." But The Secret of the Watermelon is basically the wordless book in colors, because you have God put the gospel message in the watermelon. Believe it or not, it's all there. You got the gold blossom when it's growing. You got the watermelon when it's growing. And so when you cut the watermelon open, guess what? There's dark little seeds inside. So you talk about sin. Guess what's covering over all those seeds? The red fruit. You've got the blood of Christ that forgives it. You got the white rind surrounding. So you talk about being made clean. And then when you put it back together, you've got the green for growing in Christ. And this story is about this little boy who learns the secret of the watermelon. And you play all these watermelon games. And so, I mean, you can do this with like 3 people and a team
And a watermelon.
and a watermelon, or a couple watermelons. And so, yeah, you could do it. You can do that. I agree. Popsicles in the park. You can go rent a snow cone machine and do snow cones. You can do a family picnic night, a family water game night.
Movie
you
night.
you could do an outdoor movie
bad.
night.
So bad
Um,
at 5.
So there we
We
go.
are kids
Get Tom
directors
to
here.
do
There's
anything
nothing
in
about
5
this. It's
seconds.
5 seconds.
Give
No.
me the mic. I am not giving it up until
Sorry.
it's
All right, Vicky, your turn.
5 seconds.
All right, I'm going to focus on Sunday morning, why we have people in the building, because I think
All right.
that's also an important
Okay.
thing.
Yeah,
So
there we go.
I'll give you an extra 5 seconds just for that.
Oh, she gets
Thanks.
10. Take 2 minutes.
Thanks. That's really kind of
We're
you.
so generous.
we have them in the building. And so what about potluck? So let's
Yeah.
think,
Mm.
you already have them focusing on growing who you have in the building first,
Mhm.
and then creating an invite culture. So think having potlucks after Sunday service. Think
Go wrong with food. Nope.
Sunday afternoon, you already have people there. So what does it look like to stay and have a game night, or around different things like bring in the ability for kids just to color and hang out. Like, I don't know if you live in the winter, areas or summer, but encourage people to stay after and just play. To play if you guys have a gym, or if you have somewhere
Yeah.
where kids can just hang out and fellowship, and parents can get to know each other. And maybe you put out a question. I've been in so many instances where we forget that we can, and this isn't a growing conversation, but we can grow and become stronger from within. So what does it look like to just lean into all of those families you have? And I think that was
Yeah.
even one of her questions, like, do I focus? Are you good? Ben just like,
Got an
Got
earthquake.
excited.
Ben's a
That was
moving
an
around a lot.
earthquake
Ben's
thought.
off.
He just got shaken by your thoughts. That's all.
yeah, but it was one of those things like, what do I focus on? And so I think part of it is focusing on when you have them there on Sunday morning, and the little things that you can just attach to that might not cost anything. So yeah, those are a few things. I think I have like 5 or 6 more, but yeah, if you don't have, if you're not, if you don't have the ability at your church, do you have a park close by? I love Tom's Popsicles in the Park. I've done that. There's a lot of, popcorn It's
Yep.
rainy day after
Yep.
Sunday afternoon,
Yep.
connect it to when you already have them at your building.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, you could also partner with local businesses and just say, hey, we want to do like an event at your place. We'll bring the people. You just make sure you have the food ready, and we're just going to be intentional about our time spending it with
Mhm.
families at our church. I know a
Mhm.
church that in Florida, they just get together.
Yeah.
They just basically take over a restaurant for the night, and they're like, it's just a fun time together as a restaurant. We're all going to
Yeah.
be there. You can come.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
I
I'm going to
mean,
be at this ice cream place. I'm just
mhm.
going to have ice
there
cream.
you go.
If
Yep.
you want to bring your kids, let's have ice cream together. And let's just hang out and have fun.
Yeah. See, I
These are
think the
all,
whole,
it takes me back to the COVID years when we were
Oh,
struggling as a church. Okay, what
yeah.
are we going to do? Like, we
Yeah.
don't have church. We got to get creative
Yep.
and you
mhm.
got to
Hmm.
reach
Outside
those
the box.
families.
Think outside the box.
So think,
Yeah.
think COVID
Yeah. Oh,
No,
and
no,
then
we're,
go
we're
there.
no,
no, we're
No,
thinking
no,
better than
no,
COVID. We're
no.
no.
keeping
Think
it positive.
creative. Think
Oh,
creative,
positive.
not COVID.
Creative.
Creative,
Wrong C
not
word.
COVID. Yeah. No, I think that's the whole thing that we want to encourage everybody listening is you don't have to have events. The early church,
Mm-mm.
the Acts 2 church did not start off having
They didn't have
Bible schools
VBSs
and egg
There you go.
hunts and all of
and
those
egg
things.
hunts.
um the early
6,000 eggs and a bunch of
yeah,
Jewish kids.
yeah. The
Young Christians.
the early church started because they were focused on sharing Jesus and helping become followers. And that's the thing that you think about. If you had to hit the reset button is how do I help people take those
Hmm.
steps? Whether it's a first step to a relationship with Jesus or it's a second step or a third step, how do I help? How do I do that? Because that's our mission is to preach the gospel to every creature,
Hmm.
big and small. It's not about the event, and so don't chase the big events. Do what you can do consistently. And you know what? I have a feeling. And I would love to know, I would love to get to know this leader because I would like to follow their journey over the next year. I really would, because
Yeah.
I think it's going to be pretty cool to see what this church does and how God adds to it because they just got obedient and they got back to the basics and just said, we're going to keep the main thing the main thing. We're going to rock Sunday mornings and we're going to preach the gospel. And then we're just going to keep inviting people and we're going to go to where they are and be with them and serve them. You don't have to have a big event to go clean up a park and paint the park, or fix a playground or clean a school or stock a food pantry. Those
Hmm.
you can do all that kind of stuff and serve the community. And I think this is an opportunity. All right, lightning round because we only got like a couple minutes left in this recording. If you had to pick one thing that you would focus on consistently for a year, what would it be? Wow,
Dude,
silence. Woo, I stumped
You
the
didn't say
group.
who was
you
going
said we
first,
had a
Tom. We
couple
just,
minutes. We're
yeah.
going to take our time. For me, helping families fall in love with the Bible again. And that would be like doing something to where the
Yep.
Bible comes alive way past Sunday morning. And that
Good.
it becomes a well-known word, a well-known book, and a well-known lifestyle inside of a person's house. So whatever that would be my focus.
I like it.
Kind of build off Ben. I think mine would be also
Why you got to
just,
always copy me?
I'm not copying, I'm building off of him, building into it.
We're
Oh,
Is
rebuilding
there
it.
you go.
and this is probably because of my own experience in my current situation is I just feel like right now there's just a lack of consistent community
Mhm.
with like people that truly care about the things that are happening in your life. And so if I can't have big events, I'm going to create small events in which we can have people have actual connection and community with other people and have good conversation about Jesus and life and work through all the stuff that happens.
I like that. All right, Vicky,
Picking with
bring us home.
I would spend the next year praying. So I would do it in a few different ways. I would pray personally for my church, and I'm committed to praying for this church as they go forward. I would bring people into praying with me and praying alongside. And I would encourage and bring the kids along. So on Sunday mornings, I'm going to make prayer a big focus. I'm going to focus
Hmm.
on who I have in front of me, and I am going to bring them to the throne of Jesus in prayer every single day.
That's right. That's right.
What about you,
Right?
Tom?
I'm gonna give them Jesus. And if you're watching the YouTube channel, you get what I'm saying. But if you're listening, you're gonna have to go to YouTube to see what I'm giving them a little Jesus all the time. In everything I do, I'm gonna give them a little Jesus in everything, whether it's a service project, whether it's a ministry opportunity that we have. I want to make sure that people know Him and can fall in love with Him, and that's something we can do consistently. Is look at what can we do to bring Jesus to the middle of the conversation? What can we do to bring Jesus into the people's worlds, to show that He is alive and that He cares? And you don't have to have a big event to have a conversation with a kid and tell them about Jesus. You don't have to have a big event to talk to their moms and dads, their aunts and uncles, their grandmas and grandpas. We can do this. And so, yeah, Vicky, I'm with you. I'm going to be praying for this church because I think God is going to knock their
Yep.
socks off. I think a lot of churches need to probably hit a reset button and go, you know what? We've been doing all this stuff for years. Let's see what new things we can come up with. So not COVID, but creative.
Yes.
I think we need a new
Hashtag.
tagline. I think we need a new
Right there.
tagline.
Hashtag
Nope,
right there.
yeah.
Hashtag not COVID, all creative. Um,
Oh,
so
Jump into
hey,
Facebook. I want to know more stuff. Like,
that's
I
right.
know there's a
So
lot
Yeah.
more
yeah,
ideas out there.
that's right.
yeah.
So this week, if you're listening to this episode, we want you to come into the Facebook group. This is your assignment. It'll take 30 seconds of courage to go enter into the conversation. What would you do? How would you encourage this leader to hit the reset button? And what would you do if you had to hit the reset button so that you could
Hmm.
continue the gospel and building the church? We want to know. And thank you all for listening. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you to Heidi and to Nettie. We saw that you had been watching the podcast with David Roush on feeding faith. We definitely recommend that book for every ministry leader. It's
Yep.
on our KMC recommended book list. And we'll put that in our Better Together newsletter. In fact, we'll share a link for that, so that you can find that book list. If you're looking for good books to share with your team or yourself, we'll put that in there. So sign up for that Better Together newsletter if you're not already. We would love to have you do that. If you are stuck and you need some help, you need somebody to talk this through. Hey, guess what? All four of us are coaches, and you can go to kmccoach.net. Or just go to kidministrycollective.com and hit the coaching button. You'll see each one of us on there. You can hit the clarity call button, set up a free 30-minute conversation, and it's not going to cost you anything but time. And we would love to talk with you. We would love to help you get unstuck with something. So give us a shout. We would love to serve you. So that's going to wrap up this week's conversation. I'm Tom.
I'm Cole.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Vicky.
All right, we're out.
Hey, friend, that wraps up the KMC Collective podcast for this week. Thanks so much for listening. If today's episode sparked something, an idea, a heartbeat, or a fresh start, drop us a line at tom@tombump.com or reach out on social media. We'd love to hear your story and keep the conversation going. Remember, you're not just doing kids ministry, you're shaping the next generation's faith with intention and care. Be encouraged, be creative, and take a breath. You've got this. Catch you next time on the KMC Collective Podcast.